Okay, so today I thought we'd just do something fun. So you've probably heard, or maybe you haven't, of a one board challenge. So basically, you take a 2x4 by 8 feet long and you turn it into something. So I wanted to do that today, but you know me, I'm going to do it with a twist. So instead of a 2x4, I'm going to use a fence picket. So it is a 1/2 inch by 5.5 inches by 6 feet long. And these particular ones, have dog ears at the end, which I don't care about because I'm going to chop those off. So I'm going to do the one board challenge with a fence picket. And I have more than one, not because I'm going to screw them up because I'm going to miscut them, because I want to show you a few different things or a few different styles of what I'm making. So spring is in the air. I can tell because it's snowing outside. That statement will make sense if you live in Utah, but spring is nearby. So what I figured I would do, let's show you how to make a birdhouse. So that's your typical birdhouse right there. But I wanted to show you, since I got the other boards, there's a shed style birdhouse. And then this birdhouse is meant to be mounted to a wall. So that one. So I'm going to show you 3 different styles of birdhouses to make. We're going to do it with one fence picket each. So that'll be the challenge. Can we make something? We can, because obviously I've already made them before. But I just wanted to show you how easy they are. And if you stick around to the end, we'll show you some ways to church them up a little bit or make them a little more fancy, more durable, more useful. So stick around to the end for some of those hints at the end. But I'm going to show you all 3 different styles. Okay, we're going to start with our most basic looking birdhouse. If you think of birdhouse, most people kind of think of this shape. So we're going to start with this. So you can tell that the roof part is thicker or wider than the rest of the birdhouse. The overhang, the eaves for the roof and stuff, keep the rain off, that kind of thing. So that's basically the full width of a board. So it's like 5.5, 5.25, something like that. So before we do anything with this board, we're going to cut the roof sections first. So I need a 4 3/4 and a 4 1/4 piece. So I'm going to clean up the edge because never trust factory edges. I'm going to trim that off and then cut those 2 pieces for the roof. And then we need to rip this down to our 4 inches for the rest of the birdhouse. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so we got our roof cut here. We've ripped down the board for the body of the birdhouse. So the next things we're going to do, we just need to cut some flat stock. So basically, I need to cut the base, which is 5 1/8 inches, because my stock is slightly larger than 1/2 inch. So 4 inches plus a 1/2 inch and a little, and a 1/2 inch and a little is 5 1/8. So that's the base. Then we are going to just cut these. We're not going to worry about the angles yet. So we're going to cut these about 8 1/4. So a front and a back, front and back. We'll cut the wedges later. And then this guy here has got an angle on it. So we're going to measure from here to there where we start the angle, which is 5.5 inches, and cut it at a 45. And then the other side of that, since we already cut a 45, we're going to measure the length of the top peak to the bottom, and then flat cut the other piece. That'll give us our 2 sides. And then we will go back and cut the angles to the front and the back. So let's do that real quick. Hey, I don't like to do things complicated, so I like to try to find easy ways of doing things. So we've got our roof, that's our base. These are our 2 sides that we cut. You saw how we cut one and then we cut it to correct length. I overcut it too long. And then we stacked them on top of each other and cut the length of the other one. So these are exactly the same. And that's what we want, because now if you look at our front, these go on the sides. So this is our one front. All we do now is put them together. We don't have to even measure. We just have to mark where those 2 come together. So we see where those join. Put a mark there. A mark on the other one. Transfer that mark to each side. You don't have to draw a line, but you need to know where it starts. And then that's what we're left with. So we'll cut off those 2 ears, and then that'll give us our front or our back. So let's cut the ears off. And then I'm going to run over to my drill press. If you don't have a Forstner bit for the hole, you can do a paddle bit. So just going to rip out the back side. But it's a good time to do it now, because then you could put a sacrificial piece behind it when you're drilling. It won't rip out as bad with a paddle bit. I like these because they're nice and clean. If you don't have either, then draw the circle, drill a hole, and jigsaw the circle. So this is an 1.5 inch bit, just for your reference. Okay, so we've got all our parts cut. The only thing left to do is put it all together. So I'm going to use staples for this. I think they're pretty strong instead of a single, nail or tack or whatever. I like the staples, and I like to do it with the grain or overlapping the grain. So think of this as the grain of the wood, and this is your staple. You don't want to put it in this way. You want to put it in this way so it's catching the grain and giving it the strength. If you do it this way, you could just blow through it. So keep that in mind. You're stapling it together. So got our roof, got our base, got our front and back, and got our sides. So let's put it together. My hands are kind of cold because I keep turning off the heater so you can hear me. So let's get that done. Since I'm using nailers and stuff, I'm not the best at safety, but I want to save your eyes and your ears because it's kind of noisy, and you don't want stuff, ricocheting up in your eyeballs. For your reference, 1.25 inch staples, 18 gauge. The shorter of the roof pieces goes level with that, and then this overlaps. And I'm just eyeballing it. You can measure it if you want, but equal overhangs on either side. Okay, that is our first one done. Let's go to our second one, see how we make those. Okay, birdhouse number 2 is our shed roof birdhouse. So I think this one actually uses even less wood than the last one. And we had this much of the other one left over. So you could make like a birdhouse and a half. So keep all your scraps. So anyway, this is our shed roof birdhouse. Again, the roof is full width. So we're going to cut the roof is a 7.5 inch long piece. So we're going to cut that off the original board, and then we're going to rip it like the other one down to 4 inches. So let's do that real quick, and then we'll get back to the angles and stuff. Okay, so you watched me on the last birdhouse. So I just cut off my 7.5 inch roof, put that off to the side, ran this through the table saw. So we've got a 4 inch wide board now. So next we want to We can cut the base because that's just, again, it's going to be that 5 1/8 inch base because everything else is that 4-inch stock we're using. So we're going to cut the base 5 1/8, and then the sides you just have to measure one. And if you notice, it's not a 45. Yeah, you notice it's not a 45; it's a 30-degree angle. So what you need to do is measure from the bottom to the top, cut at 30 degrees, and then the other half we'll cut that off, and that'll be the two sides. And then we'll measure up for one of these and then cut that at 30 degrees as well. So a little bit easier cutting on this one because everything's just, you're basically making a box, you're cutting 30 degrees off the whole thing, and then slapping a roof on it. So let's cut the angles real quick. Okay, that was pretty good. Other than my brain doesn't work so good because I ended up cutting 2 sets of sides. I don't know if you watched me do that, but I was meaning to do the sides and then the front and the back, but my mind was going on this, so I got an extra set of these. So I might whip together an extra one of these when I'm all done the project. But we got our base, we got our roof, drill the hole, we got our front and our back, we got our 2 sides. So let's get this tacked together and we'll be done with this one. So the nice thing about doing it this way is when you're putting things together, if your measurements are off a little bit, you can adjust, because if you look, I was actually off a little bit, almost 1/8 of an inch for some reason. So weird measurement, or I did something goofy. So now that I know that I can make this one the correct length, I will double check my lower side. And that one's right on. So I just need to modify this one by 1/8 of an inch, and then everything should go together and the roof will be nice and tight. So let's do that real quick. Oh, safety. You guys just watched me and didn't say anything. Birdhouse number 2. Done. Let's go to 3. Okay, so I just noticed my camera was blinking at me, which means I'm having audio problems. So I'm not sure how much I got or didn't get on that last little segment, so we'll have to see that in editing. So anyway, hopefully you can hear me from there. So this is our 3rd and final birdhouse. So this one is meant to be attached to a wall or a fence or something like that. So you just screw it in the wall like that. I want to make 2 changes on this one though. So I like it, but I think we can improve on it too. So this is a 45-degree roof. I think I'm going to change it to 30. So now it'll be not quite as steep. And then that means this backing we can reduce by like 2 inches or 2.5 inches. So we don't need to use as much material on the back there. So we'll be to there. So that'll be smaller. And then the other change I want to make is this one, I put the bottom inside and then tacked around it. I'm going to build it like I did the other ones, where the bottom just gets slapped down there and tacked onto it. That'll make more sense when I give you tips and tricks at the end on why you might want to do that. But let's do that. It's easier too, because this one you have to trim and get it to fit just perfect. So it's easier just to slap them on the bottom and tack them in, but I'll show you another reason why at the end. So anyway, this is a full width board. The roof is full width and the bottom will be full width. So let's cut, that's a square cut, square cut. This one's going to be a 30-degree angle at whatever that's going to end up being. And I'm going to leave it long because I don't know yet, because we're going to change the design. So I don't know how long I'm going to make it, but we'll leave it long and then we can just cut the end off, because again, that's a flat cut. I don't need to make it crazy difficult to make. And then of course that'll change this, so that'll be shorter. It'll come to about here. So let's cut the flat stuff first real quick. Okay, so here's where we are on the final birdhouse. So the regular stock, full width, we cut the back. That's a 9.5-inch piece, full width. We cut the bottom. That turned out to be 4 5/8. So that's going to be the bottom. And then we cut the roof, but I left it long because I don't know how long that needs to be yet. So when we get the rest of it put together, we'll put that there. Measure what we want the roof line to be, and we'll just like chop it off and tack that on as well. For the front, this is 4-inch stock, so we ripped it down to the 4 inches. And you notice I just did a 30-degree angle, cut it in half. Then you flip them, measure to the length you want, which these ended up being 7 inches long at the peak. So 7 inches, lop them both off, they're exactly the same. The front one needs to line up with that. That ends up being 5 inches. So now we're all ready to tack things together. So we'll get that tacked on, we'll figure out the roof, we'll get that cut, and we'll get that tacked on too. So let's tack that up really quick. You can leave this as long as you want to leave it. So I think we'll do like an inch overhang. Right now it's like 2. We'll cut an inch off. Okay, so that one's done. So a little comparison. It's our original, this is our modified one. So changed out the base, a little bit easier to do. And we changed out the angle. So I think dimensions on this are pretty nice. It's a nice stout house like the rest of them. This one was a little bit long feeling. So depends on what your preference is. So you can do it either way, but this is pretty easy. That is it. Let's look at the 3 of them, and then I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to make them better, how to make them last longer, and kind of church them up a little bit. So let's talk about that. Okay, so those are the three final versions of our birdhouse. So the whole idea of using one board or the one board challenge to make something, there we go. There's three different samples or examples of what you can do with a single board. And we have quite a few leftovers. I could probably knock out at least one or two more birdhouses out of that. So five birdhouses out of three boards. So pretty good. Now, what can we do to make these a little bit nicer? So these are cedar, they're gonna last pretty good, but they are just tacked together with, I don't even think these are galvanized, so lasting out in the weather. So you'll get a season out of them, the birds can use them. You can build these every year if you want, but here's a couple ideas on how to make these last a little bit longer. So obviously use an exterior wood glue. So I would sand them down so they're not quite as rough. Use glue on all the seams and tack them together. That way the glue will hold them together for longer. And if you are going to use them season over season, this is why I like doing the bases this way and just tacking them on the bottom. So you build the birdhouse like you normally would. Instead of gluing and tacking the base on, at the end of the season when the birds have literally flown the coop, you would screw these on. So 4 screws on there. When the season's over, just unscrew the base. You can clean out the inside, get all debris and stuff out of there because they've been living there for a while. Clean their room and then put them back on and they're good to go for the next season. So if you're using them outside, I do like the cedar. I don't know that I would coat them with anything, so I don't know if that's going to do any harm to the animals at all, the birds and everything. So I would just leave them like this. The other thing too is you can add, drill a little hole there and you can add a dowel or something for the perch or something. The other thing I like to do is if you don't want to do dowel and stuff and you have trees in your backyard, well, guess what? It sticks. So drill a little hole and there's your little perch. So drill a hole that'll make that guy fit in there. And you can do all sorts of different shapes and stuff, make it a little bit more fun. So different perches and stuff there. Paint them, finish them if they're more decorative. The other cool thing I like about this project, it's a small, quick little project. I mean, we did all 3 of these in a couple hours real quick, and that's with videoing and everything. They're fun little projects. It's kind of fun just to try something that you haven't done before. And just kind of someone challenge you some, hey, try to do this. You go, oh, come up with some ideas, use your imagination a little bit. I like these projects too because they're small, and if you have either younger children, it's a good little project to get them into woodworking or doing something with you, the parent, which when they get older, they don't always like. So, spend the time with them when they're little and they love you still. And then grandchildren, same thing. So it's a fun little project for kids. And even if they're out in the workshop with you, when you're done, they can help you paint them and make them pretty and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I did. So hopefully it gives you some ideas and some stuff to do, some project. Well, it's still kind of cold outside, but we're getting ready for spring. So if you would, smash all the buttons, like, share, subscribe, and I appreciate it. And I will see you on the next project. What? It's cedar. It'll smell nice.